This podcast is part of the No Phony Podcast Network, the home of independent awesomeness.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of On the Road with Jim and Casey. Joining me, as always, James Morganti.
That's right.
Joining us today, host of the FanCounters podcast, Nick Bailey. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. How are you holding up during this quarantine?
I am ready to not be in quarantine anymore with 2 8-year-olds in homeschooling and doing all these extra things that in January I had no idea I'd be doing. I'm ready to get back to normal.
Yeah. Where are you calling in from?
So I'm in Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your show, man.
Yeah, FanCounters is a podcast that started because me and my former radio coworker and we decided we wanted to be back in the business. We missed being on the air and kind of doing those sort of things. We had a lot of celebrity contacts, and we decided to start a podcast that would interview a different celebrity every single week about their encounters with their fans. So you might have said you maybe went to a concert and you met an artist. You would come home with a great story. Hey, I met this big rock star. It was a great experience. But we find out what that experience was like for the artist or the TV or movie star, and kind of go from there and talk about their career highlights and get some behind the scenes stories. So that's what we do.
Nice. And you said your radio gig. What's your background? Like you worked in radio before?
Yeah, I was in radio from in the 90s to the early 2000s, and I was an on-air talent. I just started as a board operator, went on the air, and eventually when my boss, who is now my co-host, left, I got her job as promotions director. So that would entail a lot of backstage meet and greets, which I kind of thought, all these stories are great. And some of the times that we got to hang out with the artists, they would tell us these wonderful stories. And I thought, these are things that nobody asks when they interview a celebrity. Like, hey, what's your craziest fan encounter? Have you ever had a stalker? What has somebody encountered you in the bathroom? We get tons of bathroom stories. So those are the kind of things we love to uncover.
So how did you get into radio? Did you go to, were you always interested in it as a kid or what?
Yeah, as a kid, I got started at 15, just running the board for local broadcasts when they would go out to, a coffee shop or a bed store or the racetrack. I would just take them on and off the air. And then within a year and a half, 2 years, by the time I was 17, they let me do like the early morning air shifts or the overnights and that kind of thing. So it increased the love of just being in that industry.
So when you're throughout your when you're transitioning into your FanCounters show, you must have had like so many people. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Has there ever been? I believe, let's just say a hypothetical guy comes in and he's like, "Hey, I had a one-night stand with Miss South Carolina. She had blonde hair." That's just totally hypothetical guy. You know what I mean? Not talking about anybody that did anything. But you had have you had one-night stand encounters from people going and meeting celebrities for the first time? Not like, oh yeah, me and Brad Pitt, I knew him for a little bit. One thing led to another, a hand shandy or something like that. What? Continue.
This is a very timely story because, I don't talk to the actual fans, right? I'm talking to the celebs. So Stephen Kramer Glickman was my very first celebrity, and I think he was just on the show a week or two ago. He was on Big Time Rush. He was the music producer with the big glasses. He always wore the hoodie sweatshirts. And he was the first celebrity to tell me that he was single during that time on that show. And he basically toured Southern California sleeping with moms. And it was really funny because he goes, yeah, sometimes I'd be, the mom and I would be down for breakfast and the kids would come downstairs and they're like, what is Gustavo from Big Time Rush doing in my kitchen? And he's like, I'm banging your mom. Gotta go. Have a good day at school. And then he even says, he goes, that's not what you were expecting to hear, was it? And I was like, nope, nobody's ever admitted that they were sleeping around with fans before. So that was a first.
Hey, well, anyone that's traveled around, I mean, I'm a musician. I've definitely been around the California area. You know, Sherman Oak. I mean, you got all these amazing places with statistically the actual hottest milfs, gilfs too. You can't. You're not supposed to condemn the gilfs. They're hot too. Yeah, like it's you got L.A., Austin. I mean, like every major city has wonderful milfs. We on our podcast we support the milfs. I believe me and Casey.
He looks less than thrilled about that. He's like, no comment.
Yeah, I can't speak for myself on that.
What was like aside from obvious, like you're gonna have stalkers, you're gonna have crazy people that want to be your friend. Maybe they're messaging you 20 times on Instagram or Twitter, constantly messaging you all the time, and then like you're not responding, and then like they just keep messaging, and the message just builds up, and like has a celebrity like call, like I told you about this, like they're talking to themselves or whatnot. I'm sure that happens all the time.
We get a lot of situations where fans feel like they know that celebrity, and so they get awfully comfortable very fast and trying to be all handsy and that kind of thing. So I've had stories like that. More so that happens when they're meeting in person. I'll hear about the in-person stuff more than I will what they might have been stalking them on Twitter or Instagram or something. But that certainly happens quite a bit. In fact, we had some of the Dance Mom girls tell us those stories on how, guys would just feel like they knew them and they'd be putting their arms around them, and that was a very uncomfortable situation. So I think they miss that connection that although you know a lot about them, they know nothing about you, and people forget that. They just think, oh, hey, we're best friends because I watch you every week, and it's like, no, I don't really know you. So I hear a lot of that.
I go to a lot of those, not a lot, but I go to, if I see like a celebrity or something that I like, I'll go to the like a Comic-Con or something to get their autograph, my picture with them or whatever. But like I'm uncomfortable doing that just because of like my personality, but like I stand there and wait for it anyway, just because I want to have that like memorabilia, you know what I mean, and to say that I did it or whatever. But like it has to be incredibly uncomfortable for them, especially like you said, with guys like coming up, putting their arm around. Like for instance, one time I had oh shit, now I can't even remember her name. She was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. She was the voice of of
Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, the lady. What was her name? Shit, I can't remember.
She's I don't have
famous actress. But anyway, I like put my arm around her just like to get in closer for the picture, and she's like, "No, we don't do that here." But it's like then you see Elvira, like you go to get Elvira's picture, and like people are giving her hugs and all, like getting in real close with her and everything. It's like
Kathleen Turner.
Kathleen Turner, yes, that's her.
She didn't let you put your arm around her?
Nope.
What? I mean, she does have a very sexy, like, hey, big boy, don't you wanna come down here for a good time? And like, I mean, I'm not, bad. I love her. She's funny. She's has that voice. She's a great actress. But I mean, come on. I mean, it's a hand. I was just going to ask you, would you recommend? I would always, who have I been in pictures with? I don't even know anymore. I don't remember. But I'm always full hand,
right on,
in a comfortable, like, pal way. Even if they're like this, I'm saying like probably like a 9.5, 10 girl that's mostly naked, and she's like a promo something, and I'm somewhere at a casino. I'm doing full hand grab on everybody because I don't like the whole like your hands not touching. What would you recommend? Maybe asking them, hey, can I be normal around you? Or are you a celebrity that I have to idolize and worship and not let touch? What would you recommend?
That's funny. I mean, that's a good way to break the ice, right? I mean, I think part of it is being a real person. And if you have a big personality like I can see you do, you coming to somebody and saying something like that would probably break the ice much better than some creepy guy who's real quiet talking under his breath and like, hey, just come over a little closer. You know what I mean? Like that. There's creepy, and then there's, hey, I'm here for a good time, and I hope you are too. I remember hearing stories and seeing pictures. Remember, Avril Lavigne would charge like $400 for a meet and greet, and you couldn't touch her. You had to be like a whole person away from her. So your pictures were always just like, she could have been a cardboard cutout. I don't understand why people would pay. Well, I mean, they probably paid not knowing what they were getting, but man, to get that treatment, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I went one time. I went. Chevy Chase was here in town, and where we live, for a question and answer thing for Christmas vacation. And my girlfriend got me the meet and greet package with him, and he's just sitting there in a chair with his hands crossed, looking straight forward at the camera. Doesn't say a word. Doesn't even like turn his head.
Really?
Yeah.
You get nothing for your money.
My girlfriend's daughter, actually, she was the first person that he said anything to, like out of the people that I could see his interactions with. She asked him, because he like took off his hat to wipe his head, and she said, "Has it been a long day?" And he said, "No, just like any other day." And that was the extent of his conversation.
Wow, that's $150 down the drain.
Yeah, you just stand behind him, and he's sitting in a chair, and that's it.
Huh. You guys watch The Voice at all?
No.
No. Okay. So you're not going to probably know who this guy is, but Dave Fenley made it to the top 5 on The Voice a season or two ago. But my favorite story, one of my favorite stories of a meet and greet, comes from him because he's got this big, long beard, and he uses all these beard oils because he's sponsored by some beard company. And so this girl comes backstage for a meet and greet, and she gets real close to him. And she's like, and then she starts sniffing his beard, but it wasn't like a sniff and release. It was like she hung there for like a long time. He goes, it felt like 2 hours that she was there. And I was like, don't you have handlers to like get these crazy people away from me? He goes, well, no. He says, I kind of wanted to just see where this was going. He goes, if she's going to have a story, I'm going to have a story too. So he flagged off the handler and let her have her sniffs, and she just thought, this is the best scent ever. And apparently it was like the smell of tobacco, bourbon, and coffee. It was the oil that he used. And I was like, all right.
That's funny. What are some of like the have any of the celebrities said of any like crazy gifts that people give them or anything?
Yeah, I haven't gotten too many gift stories. Every time I get something about food, though, we always ask, are you eating the food, especially if it's a bigger celebrity, because you don't know what kind of kitchen that came from or who made it and all of that. So most times people will not eat the baked goods unless it's like sealed in a package or something. But then we did get, like a band would be so hungry, they put on their Instagram, hey, could somebody bring me some Chick-fil-A or something like that? And then like tons of fans go to the backstage gate with this food, and they just passed it out and they all ate it. I was like, aren't you worried about that at all? And they're like, no, it was fine. I was like, all right. I don't like eating things from people that I don't know.
Do you know who the comedian Joey Diaz is?
I do not know.
There's a podcast called The Church of What's Happening Now.
Okay.
I went to see him down in Philadelphia at the casino down in Philly, and he doesn't like charge for a meet and greet afterwards. He just comes out and he'll take a picture with anyone that wants a picture and shoot the shit with you, for a little bit. And I got my picture with him, and he gives you a hug, like he puts his arm around you and hugs you in like real close. And I said, hey, I'm going to put a sealed edible in your bag behind you. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're the fucking man. You're the fucking man, bro. And I know for a fact that he ate it because he talked about it the next day on his podcast. He's like, some fucking savage in Philly gave me an edible. I fucking passed out on the plane ride home to L.A.
That's a guy that's not afraid of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang, that's crazy.
So what was the most, I'd say, dangerous, death-defying, some would say, story that you have with someone? I'm saying weapons are involved, the police fighting, anything like that. Guys, stalker, like no holds barred. What's the worst one where you're like, all right, unnamed actor, you better seek some.
You better get some attention. So here's the deal. Ever since we started the show, because I actually was in the industry, and I was producing films. I produced 6 feature films. So that's how I got a lot of my contacts. But to start out with this podcast, it was very hard to get guests at first. So I got some of my friends that were on the show that had done TV shows and movies and stuff. And so early on, you don't really know of like who the guests were, but you learn about the roles that they were on. You kind of hear the behind the scenes stories. So the craziest encounter though was this guy. His name's Johnny Alonso. He was on Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, like all those TV shows of the late 90s, early 2000s and that kind of stuff. He does a lot of movie work now. But anyway, he lives in San Diego, and he actually was the only person to tell me, besides there was one, but I can't talk about that because she didn't even say it on the show. But he was the only person who publicly told me that he had a stalker. And it was this chick from Florida, and she would routinely come to San Diego. Like if he posted an Instagram thing that he's at this beach a lot, working out or running or whatever, like she started showing up. She showed up at the grocery store and like cornered him. And he wasn't really sure like what she wanted at first, but obviously she wanted some sort of relationship. She might have felt like she met, like knew him and stuff. But he's at some point during that encounter in the grocery store, he goes, enough is enough. I've seen you at this park. I know what your profile is because you like all of my posts and you comment on everything I do. I know your face. He goes, don't ever come here again. I'm going to have to call the cops. And nothing ended up happening. But that was the only one where she traveled from Florida to San Diego to try and like be with him or whatever. I don't know. But he was open about that.
What was her, I don't know if you're such good friends with him where he's sending you pictures of what she looks like. What's her attraction level? 6 to 5? 4?
We're talking like 4.
On a good day. Like, or with.
Probably in the best. The profile picture was 4. So.
With a filter, bunny rabbits, the filter, you're saying like 6?
Yeah, if I had to pick a number, it would really be 4, yeah.
What age range? Like 40s?
30s, like mid-30s.
Okay.
Like probably midlife crisis age.
Right.
Would be good. And he's kind of in his, I don't know, he's pushing, maybe he's like early 30s himself.
Okay.
So.
I'm just trying to find like the stats on how many hot women stalkers there are. Like I'm saying like 8, 7, like at least starting at 7, going to like 9-ish.
Sure.
And then, and who's claimed that they're stalkers. And the same thing goes for guys, jacked guys, that with possible shirtless pictures that they used to have on Instagram. I wonder like how many of them are just unattractive and like, look, please stay away from me. Or they're hot and they're like, look, I kind of am seeing somebody. And then they're like, here's my, just DM me or whatever. Like, I wonder what those numbers are.
No, I seriously think that it's probably the hotter guys with the girls and it's the lesser hot girls with the guys.
Right.
I just feel like that's what I hear the most as far as, because a hot guy feels like he's got a chance with a hot celebrity, but the women, I just feel like it's kind of all over the board where if you're infatuated with somebody, you're going to go for it.
Right.
And if you're a woman, you probably know you're not going to get with the top celebrity anyway.
Mm-hmm. Where are you keeping track of these numbers at, Jimbo? Is this a stat book that you have, or what?
I just like collecting stats on like just random numbers of like biological things that happen.
I don't think that's a bad question.
Yeah. Thank you. Right? See, when you're in discussion with people, you'll be like, well, wait, like if someone's like, this girl's a crazy stalker, and I'm like, well, what's her number? And then, because like then you can like, okay, well, where are we gonna go from here? Are we gonna? Oh, well, she's a 7, maybe her face is a 6.5, but her butt is like a 9, And then you're like, well, that's like prime, that's great. Like some people even say that they love uglier faces and nicer bodies because it's just like more. Oh, I can get, that's easier for them to get. This
you
is
can work with that.
Somebody.
Well, and I've heard that you're not afraid they're going to go anywhere else.
Right.
So, I don't know.
You could work with that, Jimbo.
Work with what?
Like a 6 face and a 9 butt.
I mean, well, I love all faces. But yeah, I mean, I can work with anything. I love the spirit. Everybody knows that. But yeah, you can't beat a nice butt though. But Nick, so I was listening to your one show. Your wife, I hear, worked for NASA.
She did. Yeah, she worked for NASA Goddard for about 3 years
Wow.
in Maryland. Yeah.
I'm sure you've listened to every one of our episodes where we go deep about NASA and the Nazi origins and everything. I just wanted to.
I have heard a sampling. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. I just wanted to put it out there. Hey, Nazis, if they started it, that's great. Whatever. I'm pro NASA. I'm pro. Did they get their start off of evil origins? Yeah, maybe. But
Maybe.
hey, what are you gonna do? It's America.
She doesn't work for him anymore, so it's okay.
There you go. So Nick, how did you? Where did you go to college at?
University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. So,
And did you go for what did you go to school for?
marketing.
Marketing.
I didn't know what I would do with it. In fact, I originally thought I wanted to be a teacher and felt like I should get a broader degree. And I didn't do either. So I ended up, for my career before kids, I was running hotels. So I was a district manager for several hotels in Cleveland. And when we moved to Maryland for my wife's job at NASA, then I took a job with the corporate office where I worked remotely. So it kind of worked out. And then when we had twins, she had the better job, the better degree, and I stayed home with the kids. So that let me do a lot of creative things, like make some more films and that kind of thing. And then we started the podcast.
So was radio all before that? Or?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Radio was like 95 to 02.
Oh, okay.
So we'd been out of the game a while.
Tell us a little bit about your movies. What your feature films?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest one that anybody would know about me if they looked it up would be Diary of an Ex-Child Star. And the reason it got some press was because it turned into a TV pilot. And so basically the story is a girl at the height of her fame, teenager, is forced to quit the show, or the show ends and she has to move back to her small hometown with her parents and kind of adjust to normal life. And this is a situation where, there's a TV show about a celebrity who kind of tried to hide her celebrity and who she was. Well, this was one where she couldn't hide it. This is like the Jennifer Aniston going into the world and trying to, go to high school after the peak of her fame. And so that's kind of what the premise was, is that she had to try and deal with her celebrity in a small town. Well, we thought that the film had turned out so well. We got into a lot of film festivals and we're doing really well with it. So we thought, well, let's pitch this as a television show. So the way we went about doing that, because we already had a couple of name actors in the film where we could use some context, we sent it out to former child stars. So we hit up about 10 or 20 of them and their agents saying, hey, this is our project. We just need help. If you want to get involved and use your contacts to move it forward, that'd be great. And Beverly Mitchell from Seventh Heaven is one who picked up the project right away. So I went out to LA and I met with Beverly a few times and we worked on writing the pilot, rewrote the pilot about 15 times until it was almost nothing like what the movie was. I had to make a lot of concessions to keep it moving forward because I had everything to lose, as far as if I would fight them on something. So it turned into something different. We called it Growing Up Hollywood and pitched it to ABC Family and Nickelodeon and Disney, and pretty much everybody passed. It wasn't the right time. And since then, we've had every few years, like this was 2010, 2011, we were doing this. And every few years I'll get a call and they're like, hey, we got some nibbles again. I just want to let you know. And then nothing happens. So I kind of ignore those calls now. The last one I got was like a year and a half ago. They're like, oh, they're showing interest again. I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a good film that I did. And then we did one called Zombie Doomsday, which was an experimental film. We did it where we had planned out the whole entire shoot of this zombie film and didn't tell the cast. So there weren't any lines. We got really good improv actors. And before we'd shoot a scene, we'd be like, all right, this is our goal. This is what we want to have happen. And they would roll with it. But what they didn't know is we had some surprises in store. And one of those was where we used, fake robbers to take in guns. And we were in a diner overnight. So when they closed, we moved in, we set up, and we were able to shoot overnight until like 9 a.m. Well, about 2 a.m, we send in these robbers with guns to hold up the place. And the cast is looking like at everybody like, is this real? Are we in danger? Because, we wouldn't tell them anything. And we had a couple kids in the scene, and their parents were like watching through the kitchen window. And I was just hoping they wouldn't break into the thing to save their kid, because like one of the 9-year-olds is like crying because she has no idea. She thinks she's going to die. So part of that was we also made a documentary about that whole experience where we had a crew outside kind of interviewing the cast after each thing and whatnot. And the kid was like terrified. So, but she forgave me. She's almost an adult now. So it's cool.
That sounds cool. And what's that one called?
Zombie Doomsday.
Zombie Doomsday. And where can people find these at?
They're on Amazon.
Oh, cool.
Exclusively. So yeah, any one of my films that you see on my IMDb, you can find on Amazon.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And maybe with, I mean, there's so many different subscription services now. Maybe the one that you're looking to get made into a show, well, you were looking to get made into a show, maybe it will. Maybe you should answer your phone one of these days with one.
Yeah, I guess. That would be something where I would definitely be, it would be smart of me to try and distribute it a little bit more, especially since all that happened.
Yeah. And are those the only 2 feature films, or are there more?
So we did one called Killers in Connecticut, which was based on a true story out of Connecticut, where a family was taken hostage in their home, and ultimately everybody died but the dad. And we had distribution ahead of time for that film before we shot it. And then after we shot it, I think something happened with the family because it did not see the light of day. But I thought that was a great project and was kind of surprised at the way it ended. And then we did a really stupid, and don't buy this one, it's called Ghosts That Hunt Back, which was about ghost hunters. Basically the fact that they fake all these ghostly appearances and they're called out on it. And it was not good. It was just one of those indie films where I'm just like, did I really do that? No. But you got to have 1 or 2 of those.
Sure.
And then I did one called Tomorrow for $1. There's about a group of high school friends on their last day of freedom before they all go off to college. They throw this big party, and it's kind of a jump back and forth flashback kind of movie about what happens to everybody on the way to the party.
Very cool.
So yeah.
So all on Amazon?
They are all on Amazon, yeah.
Nice. And are they all done through, I know that you have like your own media company too, First Media, correct?
Yeah, First Star Media is the distribution on most of those. Mm-hmm.
And tell us about that a little bit. What do you do with that?
So my job now is I do a lot of live performances and live streaming for the internet for different comedy shows and concerts and live performances that are to be live streamed. So I have a video production company that does and specializes in that. And we just do everything in Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee, kind of in that 90-mile radius of Milwaukee we'll go to, and just work with private clients and theaters and that kind of thing that want to put their shows out there.
Very cool.
All right, man. Well, Nick, let's before we wrap it up here, what tips or advice do you have to, let's go with, according to the last or numbers I was reading on our podcast, we have tons of hot girls that listen to our show.
Okay.
Tons.
All right.
So, last metric I looked at was pounds. So what is your tip for girls that, let's say they're obsessed with Zac Efron or somebody that a guy, or let's just say guys too. What's your tip for when meeting a celebrity that you like and you like the way they look? You might be partially obsessed with them. Luckily for me, I've never had a celebrity obsession. I only like real people that I know. That's what drives me crazy. But what's your advice for them?
To what? What's the goal? Walk away with their number?
When they meet them, in not making themselves look like
crazy. Crazy, right? Look, you can't be desperate, and you can't even if that's your ulterior motive is maybe you want to go back to the hotel with them, or maybe you just want to get a number or something like that. You can't be desperate and overly. Don't be intoxicated. That's not going to happen. The celebrity's not intoxicated. I guarantee you, whether it's at a meet and greet or, at an event, they're not plastered. So you can't be either, because that's obnoxious. And that's what I saw a lot of that when I was working in radio. We would take people backstage, and I'm just like, you're not even like appropriate to go backstage right now, because they're representing the station. And so I think that's my biggest piece of advice is just, you got to be calm. You got to be not intoxicated and very subtle.
Yeah. And like, don't look into things too much that, ooh, did they do that just for me? Right. Like, let's just say, for example, you're at a Comic-Con and Mira Sorvino's there, and she's,
random celebrity.
She's looking at you because you're a handsome, tall, dark-haired guy, 6'2", 185 pounds, chiseled out of marble, some would say. And, totally hypothetical, she looks your way the whole time and is giving you dreamy eyes. And you don't say anything because you're like, maybe that guy sitting next to her is her husband. I'm just going to keep walking, keep it cool, right? Then, maybe they'll tweet about it later, and then she blocks you because she wasn't even doing that in the first place. Luckily, and the same, like, it was good for this hypothetical person never to say anything to her because that would have been weird, right?
That's one of the most detailed hypothetical situations I've ever heard in my entire life. Did this happen to you?
Yeah.
This guy I know.
Oh, it's the guy you know. Okay.
Yeah, his name's Jim Morgani.
You may want to find out ahead of time if they are seeing somebody, because that would make you ineligible right away.
Actually, I wasn't the one that tweeted. It was another podcast that we were on. It was Casey put the tweet out asking if she was looking at me, which I didn't say anything.
She didn't really block you for that, did she?
Yeah.
Oh,
she sure did.
And I'm not making this up, but Casey was there. It was like this.
Maybe she thought you were somebody else.
Like, she was just, look at the faraway look. And I'm like, why are you looking? Like, and I didn't say it. I just kept walking. And then just took it as, well, maybe, hey, one of those things, hey, maybe some other time, you know what I mean? And I'll just be on my way.
You do have a Johnny Depp-ish look to your face. Maybe she was just second guessing whether it was you or not.
Oh, right. Well, thank you. I've never been told that. But okay, so just be normal. Just, friends, just be yourself. Just go ahead and ask something in a normal way, like you're talking to, your like cousin, and dude, are we holding hands when we pray before the meal here, or like, you want to put your hand around them? You're saying just come be forward and just say, like a lap dance. Can I grab anything, or is that not allowed here?
I wouldn't ask for that. Go in with a very small known tidbit or fact. They do like that. I've heard that several times on the show. If you know some obscure fact and it relates to your life too, go in with that, because that will get you in. Know something that very few people know. Go back to their interviews from when they first started and find that piece of information that they released that they wouldn't want out now, and use that.
Pull on the heartstrings.
You got it. Right. Yeah.
All right, we got you. Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show. Where can people find your stuff at online, on Instagram, on Twitter, on where can we?
Yeah, our preferred method is Facebook. If you search FanCounters, you'll see the big group. Our smaller group for the diehards is called Sharpie Nation, kind of like you're getting an autograph. So Sharpie Nation, and then FanCounters is available on any podcasting platform and at FanCounters.com. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is, if any of your listeners have a guest that they want me to interview, I've put this out there several times. I've only had a few people take advantage of it. I will bring you on the show if I get that celebrity, and you can ask your questions directly. So if they want to email those to us, that offer's on the table for your listeners.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for doing this, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds great. Thanks.
See you, bud.
See you.